YouTube. Smite patch notes again today, 4.17, the Odyssey. Disclaimer at the very beginning, I'm not going to be going over the new Japanese god today, the Hunter. That I'm going to save for tomorrow. He's up on PTR right now, so I'm going to go play him for a bit, and an in-depth video on him will be out tomorrow. So if you're here to see that, wait till tomorrow, or if it's in the future for you, just go ahead and click next video. Alright, let's get into this patch though. RDO skin, tier 2. Not really sure why it has a voice pack option here. It didn't play anything when I just clicked it. Tier 2, it looks amazing in game. You can't see the bear very well in this card art, but it looks pretty good. Especially for a tier 2. Directly purchasable. I believe they're 250 gems usually or something like that. Really good skin. I think her best skin. They talked about how this is the first dark or evil Nuwa skin, which is cool. She didn't have one before. She had a ton of skins, but she didn't have like an evil one. So this is cool. Just kind of a new thing for an older god. Pretty good looking skin. This is Skulls. I don't know what the skin is called. Void Piercer, but it's Skulls. The name of the skin is Skulls. There are probably close to 30 skulls on him and his hives. This is what the top of the hives look like. It looks really cool. Don't get me wrong. It's a super cool skin. And I think it's his like big ball is clear, is like a giant skull that you can only see from the front. So it looks really cool. But this is not the name. The real name is Skulls. And this looks kind of like a Thanatos skin, but it is Chalk. Chalk getting kind of the same thing that Thor has, but blue instead of the red. I think it looks cooler on Chalk. It looks cooler in game, I think. I'm not a huge fan of these tech skins, but this one looks pretty cool. The axe throw animation is actually really odd. It doesn't throw like end over end like his normal one. It like flips around sideways kind of. I don't know if that's a bug or something, but maybe they'll fix that. Voice packs though for Nuwa.
Finally, a beast at my behest.
Get AMC.
I think I spend too much time searching for ultimate power, and not enough time socializing.
Interesting. I didn't hear that voice pack in the voice line in the VOD.
Why is it that mechs never get scared? Because we have nerves of steel.
I'm not going to say a certain Transformer's name, but I'm pretty sure he reminds you of the same one I'm thinking of right now. So, clap wave for the new guy. Odyssey, The Fall of War has a pretty cool video. I'm gonna let you go check that out yourself. I'm not gonna show that here, but it's a pretty cool video. Pretty short video, probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe. But I was not here for the last Odyssey, and so I'm not too familiar with this. I'm sure that most of the people watching this are more familiar with it than me. But the free stuff that you will get just by playing, the way I understand it at least, is this cutesy avatar chest roll and the Fire and Ice loading frame, which I'm excited to see. I love loading frames. They're kind of my favorite thing for them to come out with. Most of them look really cool, and most people also get to see them because of how they're integrated. The skins are the Chalk and the AMC skin. The new boss skin is not part of it, and neither is the RDO skin, but these two are. That's cool. We're going to be getting more. This is just the first patch for the Odyssey thing. So more to come, more to come. Make sure you do your quests for the Odyssey to get all your stuff. Miscellaneous, no one cares. God bug fixes. This is actually a pretty big one. Training exercise is supposed to cleanse your teammates of CC, but what it was happening, it was cleansing enemy gods as well. It was not stopping cleansing of your team, but it was also doing theirs, which is not good considering it's kind of his main damage source. Item balance, only one item, Brawler's Beatstick. Still not touching the important part of Glad Shield. That's still going to be an extraordinarily good item. Brawler's Beatstick, it was, even if it didn't have the passive, it was a fairly decent item for the price. So people were just picking it up for that, even when the other team had no healing whatsoever. And so what they're trying to do with this is make it more of a specialty item that you only get when there's healers, which is fine, but in this case, healers like hell are pretty strong right now, and they're just kind of indirectly buffing them, which I'm not a fan of hell, so I don't like indirect buffs or direct buffs for that matter to hell. But I understand the change, and if hell wasn't strong right now, I would like it. As for gods, I think there's 6. Don't quote me on that. We'll see in a sec. Bastet gets an interesting change. You don't see a whole lot of Bastets running around, but this will be nice for her. I don't think it'll bring her up into the meta, but her cat call, when one of her cats dies, not when it expires, but when it is killed, you get extra power. And based on how you rank up your ult, it's 7 to 15 per stack, and you have 3 cats, so it's possible to stack 3 times. 21 to 45. 45 is quite a bit of magical physical power. But that's only if all 3 of your cats die, and that only lasts for 9 seconds. The reason I think that they were talking about that they did this is because early game her ult is pretty strong. It's hard to kill her cats quickly, so you could easily body block someone in and just completely pound on them. Whereas late game, they were almost exclusively used for tanking Fire Giant or a tower. So they're just trying to make this more viable in a team fight, so that it's not so situational, which I like. I like that they're at least looking at Bastet, because she's not great. Hell is too strong. I'm not a fan of Hell. I haven't been since I started playing Smite. Her design is not one that I like to play with, against, or as. So Decay, I think that's her 1. Decreases the explode radius from 15 to 12. Okay. A lot of the damage, like when you go to clear a wave, a lot of the damage from the explode would be dealt to the archers, which this is still going to do that. So unless you miss, it's not a big change. It's not a big change. They're also updating the targeter so that when you're looking at it, it's not just a line. It also shows the circle at the end as to where it will explode. Inspire was kind of the big deal with Hell. It's not what made her so strong, but it is one of the strongest things in her kit. The fact that she has this on such a low cooldown, it's a heal over time, and it gives everyone, including herself, 25% movement speed. So lowering that for everyone else down to 10, I think, is a very good change. And the fact that she doesn't have a dash, I think it's fine that they left it at 25. I don't know if this is going to take her out of the meta. I don't know if this is going to be enough of a nerf for my liking. But at least they know that she's a little bit strong and needs to be put down just a little bit. And I just read in here, yeah, Ajax did put something online that explained exactly all the numbers and stuff that they get to see when they look at Hell and her performance. And I think that's worth a read if you care about why Hell was not touched and then all of a sudden was super strong at the beginning and now of season 4. Odin was considered quite strong. I don't think he was super powerful, but he was just a little bit too strong, with the meta being a little bit towards healing and lifesteal. His ult was just too big of a shutdown for what teams were trying to do. And they didn't change his ult. I don't think they should have changed his ult. So they just kind of brought him down in other areas to make him less viable when he doesn't have his ult, which I don't really like. For a long time, he was considered an ult bot, a ring, just carries around a ring, throws it down, and that's all he does, especially in the late game. So the fact that they brought him down in places other than his ult, I don't think he really needed that many changes. I just think the meta needed to shift away from healers, and then he was not going to be too good anymore. But the meta is healers, and so in that meta, he is too strong. So, and this change, I want to talk about this change overall real quick. They did this to 3 warriors. You see Ravana's picture down here. Because warrior jungle is too strong right now. Assassins aren't played a ton because warriors are just too strong. You're seeing Somu Kong Osiris, Sun Wukong Ravana, Odin in the jungle a lot. So they're lowering the movement speed just a little bit to make the rotation slower and to make them slightly less viable in the jungle. I don't think that'll do a ton, but you know, it's something. They're trying to get jungle back to being an actual jungle instead of being a tank, another frontliner for the team. In terms of changes specific to Odin, we have decreased movement speed per stack from his passive from 8% to 4%, which is fine. Again, not a huge change. It's not like one of the key things to Odin that this had to happen or else his character didn't work. His kit wasn't useful. So changing that's not going to be a huge deal. This one is the much larger deal. When you use your Raven Shield and it explodes without taking any damage, you would deal an extra 25% to the explosion damage, which was a lot of damage. Percent damage is always very good in Smite, and 25% is a very high percentage. So this was really good. It's what made his clear so powerful, and I mean, you could half health anyone who was not a solo laner or a support if you were even or above them with no problem. So lowering that, a lot of the time this won't change like in a fight because his shield was almost never full health anyways. It was close to full health, but you don't, unless it's 100%, you don't get the bonus anyways. So it won't do a whole lot to his team fight. It'll just do some to his gank potential, which again, taking him out of the jungle and putting him into the solo lane, which is fine. As for Ravana, again, this change here, and Ravana was too strong. He has been for a long while, and the reason he is, at least at the high levels of Smite, is his ultimate at level 5 gave him 40% damage mitigation. They're changing that. It is now scaling, so it still does 40 at the top at level 20, but at level 5 it will only do 20, which is pretty big. A lot of what they were using this for was for tower dives, especially with his 2 being able to immune the last tower shot as you were running away. He could tank a lot of towers, or tank a tower for a lot of time. So it made dives, especially in like into the mid lane, very, very valid, and just it was not a fun part of the game, especially for an enemy mid laner. There was almost nothing you could do. You weren't safe under your tower if Ravana was level 5 and had his ult up. So just decreasing that to making it scaling, I think, is a great change. Fantastic change. And then the cooldown, I think, is a little bit unnecessary, but I understand that he's been too strong for too long, and they just want to hit him and make sure he's no longer too strong. So just a little bit of a cooldown nerf to that ability as well, so that you get dove less. Soul, this isn't really a nerf or a buff, it's just a change. This will now act like a Kernanos 2, where you can see where it's going to explode. That's about it. Somu Kong, the third and final warrior that I talked about getting this nerf here, 375 to 370. That puts them, all 3 of them, back in line with most other warriors. Like Chalk, I believe, is 370. So it just puts them back there. He has a movement speed, a movement ability, and a slow in his kit. So he'll be fine without that 5 extra movement speed. He just won't be able to rotate as well. Magic Cudgel was on a pretty short cooldown, especially since you buy cooldown, of course, since he's a ability-based warrior. You'd buy Breastplate of Valor, Genji's, I can't think of the super strong item, Gladiator Shield. You would buy Gladiator Shield, and you have full cooldown. And so this was on like a 6-second cooldown or something. Yeah, 6-second cooldown. So they're just increasing this because it was a spammable ability, and it still is to an extent. It was just too spammable. He was too strong. He was dealing too much damage, just too much. So they just made it happen less often. Same thing with Master's Will. Same cooldown change. This actually did more damage per rank, except for to minions, because the cudgel has the 25% extra to minions. So this was kind of the same problem, but it also had a slow on it, so you can slow people less often. This is just kind of changing. It's not changing, it's just lowering his value in a team fight. Not by a whole lot. He'll still be one of the best team fight solo laners out there, but it'll just progress a little bit slower. And the last change here is going to be Zeus regaining, or not regaining, but taking 5 speed from the warriors and putting it onto himself, because he is God of Gods, right? Which is fantastic. He is, I think, possibly the slowest god in the game without boots. I, even as my name being Cardboard Zeus, I almost refused to play him, especially in Conquest, because he was just so slow. If you died early, like wave 1 or something, or just got poked out, and had the back, you were almost guaranteed missed a wave because you couldn't get back to lane fast enough because he was so slow, and it's impossible to run away. Your positioning has to be impeccable, and I mean, this isn't going to change that. It's just going to make it slightly better, slightly easier. So I don't think this is enough. I think he needs a little bit more movement speed before I start to play him. but at least they realize that he's too slow. He basically feels like he's not moving. It's like you're in a Raijin ult. So, anyways, that's going to do it for the patch. Have a nice day.